Hi, I'm Doug Herbert. We're out here today doing a special video for the Petersen Automotive Museum. I've been a car guy my whole life. I love the Petersen Automotive Museum. Today we're at Z-Max Dragway, Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm going to tell you my story. I guess it's as simple as that. Like I said, I've been a car guy my whole life. I love cars. Everything I've done in my life has been around cars. My dad was one of the original hot rodders. Grew up in Southern California, late 40s, early 50s. One of the original hot rodding guys from Southern California. Chet Herbert was my father. And, he was a great influence on me growing up. He was a good man. He was a great dad. And really taught me a lot about cars and really got me excited about cars. So I really didn't have much choice. When I came along in 1967, my dad was kind of on his downside of his racing stuff. But I tell you what, I was so interested in cars and racing. Like I said, it's really been my whole life. Well, where I really got involved in racing, I guess, or in cars actually in general, I was 14 years old. I bought my first car, 1970 Camaro, for like $300. It was a piece of junk. But I had a couple years to work on it before I was racing, so no problem. I spent, after school, nights, weekends working on this car. So when I was 16, I was ready to drive my hot rod down to the DMV and get my driver's license. And I'll tell you what, from the day that I got my driver's license, I don't think I ever stopped thinking about cars, working on cars, and just my love of cars has always been there. I remember not long after I was 16, I took my car, went to the racetrack, and ran down the track, Orange County International Raceway. Just a lot of fun being involved and just the excitement about that. Later, a couple years later, in 1985, I bought a gas dragster from Nick Arias, and Nick Arias was Arias Racing Engines over there in Southern California. He loaned me an engine. He let me borrow an engine. I put that in the dragster. We ended up doing get my license A dragster and then top alcohol dragster. I've been involved with drag racing ever since then, 1985, in dragsters, and raced the top alcohol dragster through 1990. In 1991, I thought, I want to be a pro, man. These NHRA Top Fuel guys, they're just, they're making all the money out here. Well, little did I know they weren't making all the money, they were spending all the money. So 1991, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go Top Fuel drag racing. I'm going to be a racer. I'm going to be a real racer. And about that same time, I decided that I needed to make a move in my life. I moved from Southern California to Charlotte, North Carolina, which is like NASCAR racing. All the people around here were like, that dragster, what's that? There's the one with the little tires in the front and the big tires in the back. Yep, that's it, Top Fuel dragster. So kind of got a little bit of excitement going. Z-Max Dragway wasn't even here back then. It wasn't even thought about, I don't think. But getting involved in Top Fuel drag racing is just something that I'd thought about ever since I was a kid. I got to sit in Big Daddy Don Garlett's car, and I made my mind up, man, one of these days I want to race Big Daddy Don Garlett's. And luckily, throughout my life, I had just an incredible time. I was able to race Big Daddy Don Garlett's and Don the Snake Perdome, Shirley Muldowney, Mongoose McEwen, just had an unbelievable time. Had kind of getting into drag race in 91, I had a tough year. At the end of 1991, we had Al Swindle built me a car that was custom built for me, and it just made me feel comfortable in the car. We came out in 1992 and set low lapse time, top speed of the race at Pomona at the NHRA Winter Nationals in 1992. Actually had the low ET of history in 1992 at the Winter Nationals. Had a great year that year. Won my first race later the year in Bristol, Tennessee. And I was hooked, man. I was an NHRA Top Fuel drag racer. Became the second person to ever go over 300 miles per hour in a Top Fuel dragster. That was 1993 NHRA Winter Nationals at Pomona. Super time there. Probably the most memorable race I've ever had in my life. 2001, Pomona, NHRA drag races. I won Top Fuel. My dad was at the race. My boys were at the race. Just a really, really special time. Fast forward through, in 2008, I was the last NHRA Top Fuel drag racer to ever win a quarter-mile drag race. So that'll be a trivia question for you at a bar somewhere. If you're having a beer with somebody, you can say, the last NHRA racer to win a quarter-mile drag race? That would be Doug Herbert. That was Norwalk, 2008. They actually shortened the Top Fuel racing to 1,000 feet due to the death of my good friend Scott Coletta. So NHRA racing changed a little bit. Also, January 26, 2008, my life took a big change when my two sons, Jon and James, were killed in a car crash less than a mile from my house. I was shocked. I don't know how to explain how that affects you as a parent, how that affects you as a person. At that time, basically half my life I'd spent with my kids. Right, they were 17 years old. I was 40 years old, so basically half my life I'd spent with these boys, and they, I mean, as any parent would know, what your kids mean to you, right? I didn't know at the time that car crashes are the number one cause of death for teenagers. Number one, more teenagers were dying in 2008 from car crashes than the next four things put together. I didn't know that. If I would have known that, I think I would have probably done a little bit different job teaching my teenagers about being safe drivers. And I think as a teenager, I know there was no fear, right? You're a teenager, there's no fear. And my son John, he saw me racing these race cars, 300 miles an hour, right? 330 miles an hour, doing all this stuff. And, what's the big deal? Driving on the street, going a little bit fast, and it's no problem. It's different, Racing is something that we do at the track. It's not a street hobby. Anyways, after my boys' crash, I decided, you know what? I want to do something really special and try and help other families and other teenagers, because I don't want another parent to get this phone call that I got that your kids aren't coming home. So I asked my boys' friends at the school, I said, hey guys, I want you to help me come up with a name for this charity program. And I went back the next week and they said, Mr. Herbert, we got a name. B.R.A.K.E.S. And I'm like, okay, B.R.A.K.E.S, I get it. That's good. Stop the car and all that. No, it's an acronym for Be Responsible and Keep Everyone Safe. And I was like, wow, that's just unbelievable, right? I could have paid an ad agency $1 million and they couldn't have come up with something so great. So I decided what I wanted to do was train other parents and teenagers and try and make parents realize, hey, your teenagers are going to need some help here. And honestly, it was a long time since I had taken driver's ed, so I didn't know. I didn't know that much about analog brakes. I didn't know that an airbag comes out at 200 miles an hour and all these things that had changed since I had actually been at driver's ed. So later that year in 2008, we had our very first brakes class that consisted mostly of my boys' friends, and we taught about 50 teenagers that year. And my phones just started ringing. I was getting emails and letters saying, hey, when are you going to do another class? When are you going to do that again? And so I decided, let's do it again. So in 2009, we had another class, and then we had another class, then we had another class. Now in 2020, currently, we've trained over 45,000 teenagers from 26 states all around the country, and it's just been unbelievable. It's great. It's been great therapy for me. I think we're doing these families a great service. The charity actually works with the University of North Carolina in Charlotte, Dr. Paul Friday. Dr. Friday, really interesting, a couple years ago, he took the driving records from 5,000 of our teenage students and analyzed them over a 5-year period and found out these teenagers that have been through our driver training program were 64% less likely to be involved in a car crash. How awesome is that? That, to me, that just made the world a difference, knowing that my boys were making a difference going forward. And part of the thing that we try and do at B.R.A.K.E.S really is, it's a performance driving experience, right? At the end of the day, it's a performance driving experience that we're doing. It's the first time that many of these teenagers, and actually a lot of the parents, because we put the parents in the cars too, not with the teenagers, but separate, it's the first time that they've had a chance to really have fun driving a car. I think it's kind of changed from when I was a teenager. Driving a car was so fun, and now driving a car has kind of become something to get you from here to there. And I think a lot of our young Americans don't realize, cars, man, that's an American thing. Getting in your car, polishing your car, cleaning your car, putting wheels on your car, waxing the car, all those things. I mean, those are just cool things that you get to do, maybe by yourself, maybe with your dad, whatever. And I wanted to give teenagers and parents even that experience of being able to be behind the wheel of a car, learning some experience things. These instructors that we have now at this charity program. By the way, people ask, oh my gosh, that must be expensive. Well, guess what? It's free. The whole program is in memory of my boys, and so we don't want anyone to not come because of cost. So putonthebrakes.org is the website. That'd be a good thing to check out if you have a chance. But anyway, it's been rewarding to me to be able to do something. I think we made a lot of impact on teenagers, and really at the end of the day, my goal is to make sure that another parent doesn't get the phone call that I got that their teenager is not coming home. That's really what B.R.A.K.E.S all about. So, you know. I'm just so fortunate. I feel so lucky that the Petersen Automotive Museum has asked me to do this to do this video today, to make this video up. This video is actually the property of the Petersen Automotive Museum. We're so pleased to be able to work with them. What a wonderful place. If you love cars, do not miss going to the Petersen Automotive Museum. Every time I go there, I spend hours just checking out everything they have. I'm Doug Herbert. That's my story. I'm a car guy, and hopefully all of you are car people as well. Thank you.